But they got theirs off Department of Corrections website. That's where.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm Director Mike Bruno with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Our suspect in this case that was shot is Victor LaRosa. He's a black male, 5'10", 150 pounds. He's 23 years old. His criminal history, which has been provided to you, shows that he was on probation currently for sale of cocaine from a case in 2014. He has several priors related to narcotics possession and sale. The outstanding suspect in this case is a black male, 5'9" to 5'10", with short dreads, a blue shirt, and khaki shorts. The victim officer in this incident is Sergeant D.R. White. He's a 24-year veteran with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. He has approximately 18 years in the narcotics division. The officer discharging his weapon is Detective M.A. Boree. He's a 9-year veteran with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. And he has been in the narcotics division for 1 year. He has one prior shooting incident. It was from 2008. It was a shoot and miss. We are also in your packet, or will be provided to you, releasing several pictures from the scene. Our goal is to show you the total disregard of the suspect for residents and for the officers that were at the scene, and to hopefully provide a better understanding of the difficult situation that developed there. We have also developed information since last night that we did not have available to us, that the suspect vehicle that was driven to the apartment complex was reported stolen earlier in the day. As a matter of fact, it was reported so soon to this incident that the reports actually overlap with the times. It was being reported about the time that we were working the shooting investigation, so it is very fresh, that auto theft case, and I believe that's in your packet as well. So yesterday at approximately 11:30, narcotics officers began a buy-bust operation throughout the city. That buy-bust operation targets street sales for narcotics, and we use that as a tool with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office to develop information related to other crimes, including violent crime. In this case, they deployed at 11:30, and they worked until approximately 2 p.m. when they took a scheduled break due to a court appearance. They reconvened at approximately 4 p.m. and worked until about 6 p.m. when they contacted the outstanding individual that I had mentioned earlier. Throughout the earlier buy-bust, there were 6 transactions with our buy-bust team. So there were 6 arrests, and in those, they recovered 1 firearm. It's important to note that in each one of those cases, they developed a plan of action. The detectives worked that plan of action, and the suspect was taken into custody, charged. There was no injury to the suspect, no injuries to the officer, and no danger to the public. The officers addressed the variables that are presented to them by the suspects. because in these cases, the suspect dictates the location where we make the transaction. So, at approximately 6 p.m., the officers are in the area of Acme and Atlantic, and they encounter an individual walking on a sidewalk. Through their nonverbal communication, they express the interest in purchasing narcotics. He relays back to them that he can help them with that, so the detectives pull over, a brief conversation ensues, and that suspect gets into the undercover vehicle and directs them to the apartment complex, Mayfair Village. As they enter the apartment complex, the suspect tells them to pull onto the front roadway of the complex and to park there. He exits the vehicle, he goes into the apartment complex for about 5 minutes and comes back and basically tells them that the narcotics that are there, they're weak, they're pieces, they're not worth their money. He tells them if they'll wait a couple of more minutes, there's a guy across the street. The suspect is familiar with the area. He tells them that there's another dealer across the street he's going to pull up. That is when the stolen automobile driven by Victor LaRosa pulls up. That original suspect approaches Victor, conducts a narcotic transaction for our detectives, and then takes the narcotics back to the detectives. As the detectives get the narcotics, they give the takedown signal, and an apprehension team moves in. Part of that apprehension team and part of their planning is to have blocking vehicles. One of those blocking vehicles is going to block in the stolen vehicle. There's also an apprehension portion that is being deployed from the front of the suspect vehicle. The driver, Victor LaRosa, sees this unfolding and begins to back out from where he is parked. In an effort to escape, he rams that police blocking vehicle and then drops it in drive and accelerates forward to further his escape. Sergeant White is on the sidewalk approaching. He's part of that element that is approaching from the front for the apprehension. Sergeant White is on the sidewalk and he is signaling for the driver to stop. Sergeant White is kind of pinned in between a bush that's there and some other things. And so he's trying to signal for that individual to stop. All of the detectives on the apprehension team are clearly marked with police insignia or are in uniform. So they are fully recognizable. There's also, our takedown cars have lights in them, so there's a visual element for the suspect. The suspect accelerates towards Sergeant White and strikes him with his vehicle. Sergeant White is thrown into the air, tumbling, and loses control of his firearm. The firearm falls to the ground, and while Sergeant White is in the air, the suspect has accelerated so hard that the car completely passes underneath him. He comes down and lands on his head near the curb. The officers at the scene, or the detectives at the scene, thought he was dead right there, being thrown that high in the air and then landing on his head. The suspect continues to accelerate. He destroys 5 cars at the scene that were parked there. An additional takedown car is still working to stop this suspect when he drives into one of the apartment buildings and strikes one of the upright posts for the stairwell and porch for the upper apartment. The takedown car then pins the suspect vehicle up against that stairwell post, and the driver bails out and takes flight on foot across Beach Boulevard. As there's a short foot pursuit with several narcotics detectives pursuing him on foot, while other narcotics detectives are tending to Sergeant White and his injuries. There are 2 vehicles that also pursue the suspect. One of them is an unmarked vehicle. The other one is a marked vehicle, and it is with lights and sirens pursuing this suspect. They run to the intersection of LeMay and Drexel, and in some backyards there, the suspect begins to cut through. There's heavy growth in that backyard. The grass is really tall. There's a lot of kudzu vines and such. There is a fence that is somewhat concealed, and through there, the suspect trips on something. He falls almost into like a push-up position and pushes his upper torso off of the ground. And then when he twists towards the officer, as the officer is giving him verbal commands, he shoves his hands down towards his waistband, and the officer fired his service weapon 8 times. At this time, we are aware of apparently 5 gunshot wounds to the upper torso of the suspect. There was no firearm located at the scene, and the suspect died at the scene.
Did he have any kind of weapons on him?
Well, I'd like to go back to before I start answering questions and recognize some of the things that we, through the discussions with the community and some of the things we've heard, and I want to point these out. It's important to note that the detectives demonstrated great restraint at the apartment complex, maintaining their firearms discipline. All of our officers are responsible for every round that they fire. They are responsible for the backstop, the location, and any bystanders. And in this case, we had an attempted murder of a police officer and someone that is showing total disregard for any residents in the area. And none of the officers fired their weapon in that apartment complex. So that's one of the things that I wanted to point out there. The other thing is, and I mentioned it earlier, the suspect dictates the location of these drug transactions. We are out there dealing in their world, and they dictate the locations. The officers are held accountable for addressing all of the variables for each of those locations, including their firearms discipline. And when we go into the public, when these narcotics officers go into the public, they're doing the same transactions that occur around each one of us every day. And it's important to note that if we avoid locations such as this, all that we're doing is condoning that type of activity. It's going to fester, and our violent crime is just going to continue to swell. So it's imperative that the Sheriff's Office use the tools available to us and address these crimes in the public. So also, it was asked yesterday in regards to people responding to the scene. The Sheriff Williams responded to the hospital and checked on the well-being of the officer and his family. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, many of the officers at the scene thought that Sergeant White was dead when he landed on his head from that distance. So there was some serious concern in regards to his well-being, and the sheriff and the undersheriff both responded to the hospital to check on him. So I'll take any questions.
Catherine with Action News. Can you tell us if the suspect who was killed, did he have any other kind of weapons on him, a knife, anything like that, that would have given the officer an indication other than reaching down towards a waistband?
There are still some investigation pieces pending, and that's why I said apparently 5 gunshot wounds. He's still at the medical examiner. The autopsy is not being conducted today. We anticipate more of that tomorrow. So I can't fully say what's on him, but to my knowledge, no.
Samantha Manning with Action News. We're hearing from several residents in the area that these officers were involved in the confrontation with families and children that were around in this apartment complex. Did this happen with kids in the area?
I can't speak for who was in the courtyard or some of the challenges with establishing the initial crime scene. But as soon as the patrol officers responded, they would take possession of that perimeter. Obviously, we're trying to preserve the evidence, preserve a lot of things, and our first responding officers are those narcotics detectives. As soon as patrol gets there and can take possession of the scene, then they will certainly secure that. I don't know of any confrontations. I understand it's an emotionally charged situation for the residents as well as for the officers. There's a lot of things unfolding rapidly, but I'm unaware of any real unrest or confrontations, certainly not physical confrontations.
Director, how many people are on this apprehension team? How close are they? And how did this other suspect that you're still searching for, how did he just leave the area without anybody noticing him?
Well, it's a tactical street narcotics unit. They work closely hand in hand. They develop, operations plans and such. So they're tight, just like any other squad that works together on a regular basis. So I mean, they work closely as all of our officers should. But that, I can't remember the second
That's all right.
part.
How did that suspect, the one you're still looking for, how did he get away with nobody noticing him? There was a heavy police presence there last night.
Well, and there's a lot of things going on, once again, like I said, with the destruction of the cars, the assisting the officers, the flight of the other one, of the other suspect across Beach Boulevard now. It just was, it's unfolding so dynamically that there's not a, I'm going this way, you go that way type thing. It's just, they're doing their dead level best effort, and sometimes these things happen.
How is the officer doing?
The officer was released late last night. He does have some minor injuries all over his body, but he did have a significant head injury. So
Has he opened up about it at all? Has he talked to you about it?
I have not spoken with him. No, ma'am. I know, like I said, he spoke with Sheriff Williams and Under Sheriff Ivy in regards to that, what occurred. He's been in good spirits. He's reached out to his squad and had those communications. So from all of the information that I've gotten, he's in good spirits. He's thankful to only have the injuries that he had.
Knowing what you know now, is there something you would have done different to avoid that confrontation and the shooting? Could you have gone somewhere else for the takedown or waited a different day? Because there were so many people out in that apartment complex, and you guys have been there before, so you're familiar with the area.
Well, and that's part of this investigation that will unfold. There is the criminal portion of it, and that will unfold through the state attorney's office and their assessment of the situation. There's also the administrative portion of it for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office with the Response to Resistance Board, where we will look at the information provided by the state, the information provided from our cold case, as well as statements made by the officers. And in any situation that involves our officers, because there's no such thing as acceptable losses. We critique and evaluate all of our operations to make sure that we're doing it the safest way for the public as well as for the officers. So we are not to that point yet, but we will get to that point to where we'll ask some tough questions related to how things developed, how things unfolded, and is there an opportunity in the future to improve our safety, our response.
So this shooting, per se, from the officer is still under investigation. It's not by any means considered a clean shoot or anything.
Absolutely. We're a long way from a state attorney's decision and then to the administrative portion of that. But it will certainly be critically reviewed.
Some
Is he
are
on
saying
paid or
that-
unpaid leave? Sorry.
I'm sorry, who?
Is the officer Reed?
He's on paid leave. Yes, ma'am. That is our policy. Yes.
Do you have the spelling of his name? Just
B-O-R-E-E.
There was, where is Sheriff Williams? When you said he went to the hospital, but you figure on the first full day of his administration, something this major happening. What is he saying, and where is he?
He is supportive of the officer. Obviously, he went to the hospital. There was great concern there, and there were several hours at the hospital. Where they're trying to tend to him, determine what the sergeant's injuries were, including a CAT scan. And I mean, there's a lot of. We all know going to the hospital that things take time. We, through Under Sheriff Ivy and through others at the scene, we were constantly updating and briefing him and letting him know what our status was and what we were, finding through our investigation. So he was fully aware of what was occurring through his chain of command.
Director,
was this by bust? Was this by bust? Typical, atypical? I mean, it happened the first day that he's on the job. Are those related? Were they trying to?
They schedule them
Special
periodically, and it's not always. They schedule them periodically and as needed. It's not, to my knowledge, it's not reflective of because of an administration change or anything. They are doing their day-to-day operations as they should.
Director, I want to go back to the suspect that you're still looking for. How did detectives know originally to go to him, and why don't we have some kind of name or a better description of him?
It was a cold contact on the street. They, like I said, they were driving by, they slowed down, used some nonverbal communication, that they were looking for drugs. It's in that illicit field. There's codes, there's other things, and they use nonverbal communication, and he signaled back that he could assist with that. And obviously he's from his criminal history, he's a player. He understands what the codes are and how to do the transaction. So this wasn't his first time.
Would body cams have helped in this situation? Would we have had a better picture of him?
Well, certainly you couldn't have a worse picture. I mean, if we had a picture of him, that would certainly help. We are working to develop some additional investigative leads. I don't want to go into that too much because I don't want to lose that opportunity. But we're still developing.
Because there is surveillance, right, out there?
Surveillance where?
Anywhere.
The complex there in the stores across the
I'm
street.
not aware of any surveillance video at the apartment complex, but we're certainly going to check anywhere that there may be surveillance video.
There was quite a bit of property damage to some of the cars, especially the people living in that complex. What is JSO doing to assist those residents who were not involved and are now dealing with the effects?
Well, and there's the city adjuster that will obviously, in city risk management, will be involved in these conversations. So,
Any other questions? All right.
The spellings again on
Yes,
all of the
spelling.
names.
All the names.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's, I think.
White, common spelling.
Is it the first initial?
first first name?
Oh, DR.
D-I-A-R?
DR. Delta Romeo.
What's
Oh,
his
it's
name?
D, period R.
Yes.
Did he go by Randy?
Does he?
Yes.
go-
Randy White.
Yes.
Okay. And his rank is?
Sergeant.
An officer?
Detective Borey?
Boree, B-O-R-E-E.
B-O-R-E-E.
M-A.
We don't know his first name. First name.
Mike.
And he's a detective.
Yes.
In the narcotics unit.
Yes.
B-O-R.
9-year veteran with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, 1 year in narcotics.
B-O-R-E-E.
He is in-
B-O-R-E-E. Sorry.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Director.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Oh,
much.
those pictures you were talking about.
Yeah, we're going to send them out.
Emailing them, okay.
Melissa, is that Detective Mike Bruno?
Yes.
Okay. And Sergeant Randy White.